Shut up! If you don't like it, then get the hell out of here. I'm completely fine with you. You should even be thankful that you get to be here.
My husband, Jim's words were so unreasonable that I couldn't really understand his point. So I decided to make up my mind with everything he had said just now. I will not obey to a guy like him anymore. My name is Rachel. I am 37 years old, and I am a full-time housewife. My husband, Jim, and I have been married for 10 years. We have a 7-year-old son, Kyle, and our family of 3 was living happily together. My husband originally graduated from a prestigious university and works for a well-known company. Because of this, he had a bit of an arrogant side to him, and he would always try to one-up me. When we were dating, though, I did feel that he was trying to be the man and lead me everywhere, and I thought he was someone I could definitely rely on. But after we got married and had our son, I sometimes felt that his harsh words and strict manners were a bit of a hassle. I had a really hard time when I got into an argument with him because he was so convinced that he was absolutely right, that he would try to talk me down, no matter what my opinions were, or what I made my point on in the argument. Eventually, I learned to let it go, thinking positively that actually defeat is victory. And I think that's why our marriage has lasted for 10 years. However, recently, I have another concern about my husband. That is that my husband is addicted to gambling. When we were first married, he used to gamble on horse races and other games just for fun. But he swore to me that he would never burden our family finances from gambling. And in fact, he really only enjoyed it within the limits of his own allowance that he'd get from his earnings. Then, just recently, he got lucky and hit the jackpot. He won some money at the lottery. My husband was so excited that he told us,
I'll buy you anything you want.
And he paid off the remaining house loan with that money he won from the lottery. And still, there was some money left over. But my husband began to gamble with what was left. So, the amount of money he would spend at gambling became larger and larger. On weekends, he used to take our son to the park or drive a car to take him somewhere. But recently, he has been collecting and analyzing information about horse racing from the internet and other sources, and compiling it into a notebook. And since the gambling amount is really large, when he loses the gamble, his mood goes really bad. But when he wins, he gets carried away and says,
I'm going to use this as a campaign fund and bet more this time.
So, if you look at it in general, the money has not increased at all. When I pointed this out to him and suggested that he save his money little by little, he brushed it off with,
"Shut up. You're an amateur and you know nothing about gambling."
Like this, he does not listen to my opinion at all. My husband, who is completely addicted to gambling, gradually stopped providing any money for the family's living expenses. So I started working part-time and tried to save money every day. During that time, my husband's arrogance and unreasonableness became worse, and he started making strange accusations such as,
"Your cooking has been so lousy lately that I couldn't think straight and lost the bet."
My goodness, how could he even blame his luck to me and my cooking? Well, I guess my cooking is getting crappy because Jim's not providing enough so that we can eat better. Then one day, the unthinkable happened. I was about to go out when I noticed that my favorite bag was missing. No matter where I looked, I couldn't find it. What? Did we get robbed? Or, no way. With that thought in mind, I asked my husband, "Have you seen my bag that I use?" Then to this, my husband answered simply,
"Yes, I sold it."
That bag was given to me as a birthday present by my husband when we were dating many years ago, and I had loved it for many years. This really pissed me off, and I asked him, "Why would you sell it without even asking me for my permission? You're unbelievable." And I was furious at him. To this, my husband got annoyed and got angry and said,
"What? It doesn't matter. I bought it for you, so it doesn't matter if I sell it."
I was so angry that after that, I stopped talking to my husband. I thought I would intentionally cook something crappy for Jim. But for my son, I would give something nutritious to eat. And when my husband came home from work, I would only serve him something really crappy. For instance, I served only a cup of noodle or just a bread and butter on the side. When my husband noticed and got angry about it, I laughed a little. I was still angry at Jim though, so I treated him that way for a while. But my husband was still a proud, arrogant man. So now he started getting takeouts and eating it only for himself. At first, it was burgers from fast food restaurants or pre-made meals from the store. But then he started buying steaks to show off how good it was for me. He would say,
"Oh, this steak is so thick and tasty. Amazing."
and try to rub it in. And I felt that he really was an immature human being, and my affection for him cooled off at once. In the midst of all this, there was another incident where my husband sold my things without my permission. This time, it was rings, jewelry, and other expensive things. When I got angry with him about it, he snapped back at me again.
"Shut up. If you don't like it, then get the hell out of here. I'm completely fine without you. You should even be thankful that you get to be here.
My husband, Jim's words, were so unreasonable that I couldn't really understand his point. So I decided to make up my mind with everything he had said just now. I will not obey to a guy like him anymore. While my husband was at work, I packed up my belongings and took my son back to my parents' house. My parents were surprised to see us arrive with our large bags, but when I explained the situation, they were outraged at my husband and told me I could stay as long as I wanted. I did not return back to where my husband was for another 2 weeks after that. During that time, I never heard anything from my husband. I guess he is an arrogant man and can't bring himself to contact me. And when I thought like that, it annoyed me so much that if that was the case, I decided to stay at my parents' house even more. It was really easy and comfortable to live at home because my parents would take care of my son during the day, and the housework would be done in no time if I shared it with my mother. I also realized how much easier it was emotionally by not being with my husband. I wish I could get a divorce now. These thoughts were growing stronger day by day. But I can't decide everything on my own. Even if he is a lousy husband to me, he is the only father that my son has. So I decided that I would talk to my son about it. You know, I don't think I can live with your father anymore. And I've been thinking of not living with him permanently anymore. And as your mother, I want to live with you, Kyle. But what would you want to do, Kyle? After thinking for a while, Kyle said, I want to live with my mom too. And then he said,
Lately, Dad is kind of scary. It's like he's obsessed with something.
I knew it. Kids do closely and carefully look up to us parents. I should not underestimate Kyle just because he is only 7 years old. I was happy for my son's growth, and at the same time, I decided to divorce him. Then I went back to the house where I had lived with my husband for the first time in 4 weeks. When I entered the house for the first time in a long time, I smelled a really terrible and tremendous odor. The house was in a terrible condition. Clothes were undone, dishes were dirty and unwashed, and cup noodles and pre-made frozen meals were just left on the table after eating. I wanted to discuss the issue as privately as possible, but I knew I could not be in a proper state of mind in the midst of such a foul odor. So I sent a message to my husband and told him I would be waiting for him at a cafe near our house. Later, my husband came to the cafe after work. My husband grinned and said,
What's wrong? Finally feeling sorry for what you did?
As he sat down on the seat across from me. I took out the divorce papers from my bag and held them out to him, saying, Let's just get a divorce, please.
Huh? Divorce?
My husband was surprised, and his eyes widened. I finally realized that I was fine without you. I replied exactly what he had said to me. He turned red and said,
How are you going to raise a child by yourself? I won't give you a penny. You can't survive without my income anyway. I'll have you back at home again, so don't be stupid and come back.
Well, the reason you're saying that is because the truth is that it's hard to live without me, isn't it?
Huh?
You seem to be in a lot of debt.
How did you know?
I went home first before I came here.
What?
That home is in such a terrible condition, so I was going to leave right away. But then I found a bunch of mail on the floor. I had to check to see if there was anything addressed to me, and there were a bunch of consumer loan notices addressed to you.
Well, that's...
I can see your true intention. The bottom line is that you need someone to do your chores and help you pay off your debt, right? And if we don't split up, you won't have to pay child support.
No, that's...
But it's useless now. I'm definitely leaving you. I'll hire a lawyer, and I'll get out of this crappy married life from you.
Lawyer?
I'll make sure you pay child support, and I'll make sure you pay your share of the division of property. If you try to ignore me, I'll send a content-certified letter to your office. And then, everyone at work will know about your horrible debt.
Please, don't do that. It's going to affect my credibility at the company.
Then, you better pay me what I'm asking for.
No way! I don't have that kind of money.
Oh? You have a house that you use the lottery money to pay off all the loan. Why don't you just sell that house?
What? If I sell that house, I'll have nothing.
I don't care. Anyway, I won't forgive you anymore. You'll pay what you owe. With that, I left the cafe, leaving my distressed husband behind. I then demanded a divorce from my husband through my lawyer. My husband, who is completely livid with me, meekly signed the divorce papers. And of course, I demanded child support and property division. My ex-husband eventually sold the house and gave me half of the money. He also paid child support with the remaining money he had. My ex-husband paid the child support and used the remaining money to pay his debts, and in the end, he managed to pay them off. However, he is now completely penniless and has lost his house, so he now has to live in a cheap apartment to save money. However, getting rid of addictions are really difficult, and it seems that gambling addiction cannot be easily cured. It seems that my ex-husband got into debt again, and even his workplace received notifications and calls from the consumer loaning companies, and eventually his debt was found out. As a result, his bosses saw it as a problem, and he was never able to get ahead in his career again. I don't know how my ex-husband, filled with debts, is doing now, but he has a restraining order against our family, so we are safe as of now. On the other hand, my son has grown up very well and seems to have made a lot of friends at school here. I have been hired as a full-time employee at my part-time office job, and my income has gone up drastically, which I am really grateful of. I would like to continue to work hard as a single mother, watch my son grow up, and live happily with my family. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.